So today, bit of a wild day. It's kind of a topic I wanted to touch base on was motivation. I am lacking it today, and
You and me both.
right. It's been one of those
Yeah.
days, right?
hmm
Well, so I think as we're building this podcast out, and we're trying to bring some interesting content and conversations that people can really dive into. I think it's interesting to kind of talk about our daily life, right? So today, it was just one of those days, right? It seems like both of us kind of had that, no mojo, not feeling it, all that sort of thing. But here we are. We wanted to jump into this. We wanted to continue creating content. We wanted to make something happen from something that otherwise would have been way easier to be like, no, we're not doing this tonight. Grab a beer, sit on the couch. There's not even a good football game to watch. But we wanted to jump in and do something. What do you do? What kind of motivate? How do you pull yourself up and motivate yourself to do stuff?
Well, I totally agree. Both of us had a terrible day. I know a little bit about yours. Mine was like a lot of editing. I do a lot of the video editing for Soaring Profits here. And it just seemed like even now while we're filming, the internet is against us. My computer kept on like glitching. My editing off software was like doing some weird things.
Easy for you to say.
Not easy for me to say, especially right now, because
Right.
it seems like we're having some Wi-Fi problems. But bear with us. We're going to get through this. But that's exactly what happened. Pat and I had a conversation about 15, 20 minutes ago, and we're like, do we do it? Don't we do it? Do we? And then we were like, you know what? Screw it. Let's talk about motivation and what we go through. So my story is not very unsimilar to a lot of people's. 7 years ago now, I think. I was 356 pounds and rather rotund man. I was unhealthy. I was eating bags of chips every night. I was going to have pizzas, eating basically whatever I wanted. It was like, it was a very unhealthy James back then. I was a very unhappy James too. And then, so I went into, a friend of mine came and saw me, and he was also a large person. But when he showed up, he wasn't large. And I was
This is a buddy of yours, like you hadn't seen in a
really
while?
good
or-
friend that I hadn't seen in a couple of months. He lives far away, but he was an old college buddy, and he'd come to see me. And last time I saw him, he was like almost 300 pounds. And then when he shows up, he's about 250. Well, 50 pounds is a lot when
Right.
on a human being. So I noticed it right away, and I'm like, what are you doing? And he told me about a keto experience. So a keto experience is a high-fat, low-carb kind of diet. A lot of people think it's unhealthy. I did it for 2 years straight. At no point was I unhealthy. I saw my doctor all the time. My cholesterol was great. My heart was fantastic. She kept on warning me about this diet because she felt it was unhappy because you eat a lot of fat. But at the same time, she's like, well, you lost a ton of weight. You're the healthiest you've ever been. Your heart rate is amazing. So I guess keep going is
Right.
what she kept on saying, which is amazing. So, but during that time, I was a foodie. I love food. I crave food. I would wake up in the morning and go, at lunchtime, I'm going to have this. And then I'd get through work because I would think in my head, tonight I'm going to smash a pizza. It's going to be awesome because I'm going to put all these toppings on it. And then, as soon as I was on the pizza, I'd go, I wonder what's in there. Is there some cookies, some ice cream, some chips? So it was just food drove me all the time. So I had to change that perspective. I had to come from where food was what was driving me to fill in something else. I had to take the food driving and make it something else. So I started filling up my life with other things. I've tried different working out. I've tried yoga. Some things stuck, some things didn't. For the keto itself, though, for the food, what I ended up doing is I gave myself a 2-month reward. What I would say is in 2 months, I am going to have a weekend where I can eat pizza, chips, and drink a pop. And so for 2 months. And so then, when I got home and I was hungry, I would think, no, you know what, in 2 months, like I'm within 30 days now. I'm within 20 days now. I'm within 10 days now. And then when I got to that first 2 month period, I thought I was like I was going to Disneyland. It was like the most exciting experience of my life. And then I started eating the pizza. and I started eating the chips, and I went like nuts.
Yeah.
I ate a lot of food. But what ended up happening is I felt gross. I felt horrible. My body had 2 months of good food, and I was losing weight. And next thing I know, my brain chemistry had switched that I didn't want this.
Right.
So then when I was done that, I'm like, okay, now I'm back to keto. Went back to keto, started feeling great again. Started feeling amazing, having all this energy. I didn't have the highs and lows that sugar give you. And then, so
Wait, so time out. Hang on a second. Hang
Yeah,
on.
yeah,
I
go ahead.
love this story. I love where you're going with this.
yeah,
Give me numbers, because when you talked about this, you were 300 and
I was 356 pounds when I started.
that was the heaviest
Yeah.
you were, 356.
The heaviest I was. My
Okay.
first 2 months, I lost 100 pounds.
In 2 months.
Yeah, yeah, lost 100 pounds.
I feel
It
like
was
this
crazy.
is an infomercial.
It fell off of me, and
Right.
it wasn't like I didn't do any of those chemical ketos. I think they're ridiculous. You can do this by just Googling keto healthy food, and
Right.
it gives you all kinds of recipes. If you like chocolate, it'll give you chocolate recipes that are healthy for keto. If you like, I just did, to tell you the truth, I ate bacon, sausage, eggs, butter. I had bulletproof coffee in the morning. I did all that. 2 months, I lost 100 pounds doing very little, because I was too heavy to do real working out. It wasn't until that first 2 month span when I went through, I was able to start, because then I was down 100 pounds. I was
Yeah,
256
your
at that
push-ups
time.
look different. Your sit-ups
Yeah,
look different.
totally.
Your mobility looks drastically different. At
So did
100
my
something
feet,
pounds.
because I could look down and see them. I didn't know what they looked like until then. I could
There's
tie
some
my
other
shoes.
there's some other anatomy. We're going to leave that one.
Well, I was going to say that, but then I thought podcast.
Family,
I don't know who's
family
watching it.
friendly, right? Yeah.
Yeah. So losing the 100 pounds motivated me. The way people
Right.
started talking to me motivated me.
Well, that's my next question. So you go out, you motivate yourself, and again, kind of from where we're talking about tonight, lacking that motivation, people coming home from work and crashing on the couch, throwing on the hockey game, grabbing a beer, grabbing a pizza on the way home, doing this for your family. What was your spark? Like, what was your motivator when you first started this?
So what I don't think we've discussed this, but both my mother and father died. So my mother died about 3 months before my daughter was born, and my dad died 6 months after my daughter was born. So I lost them both very quickly. So neither one of my children had grandparents, and so I was trying to think. I was 40 something at the time, and I was starting to think in terms of my parents died at 59 and 61.
Right.
So if I don't do something drastic soon, my grandkids are going to be left alone. And I want to help raise my grandkids. I loved raising my children, and I want to be there for my grandkids. My children suffered because they didn't get to meet my mom and dad. And that's an awful thing. So I kept that in the back of my mind. That was my original first drive to do it. And then it was kind of, I liked the attention I was getting a little bit, like, because people noticed right away. They were saying I was good looking. They were encouraging me on. And the fact that I felt good, like I had all kinds of energy. I went from, like you said, I would come home and I just wanted to sit on the couch and watch TV all night. Well, then I was coming home after 2 months and I didn't want to sit on the couch. I was like saying to the ex-wife, well, at the time, wife, hey, let's go for a walk. Hey, let's go for a hike. Let's go. And of course, she was still in that spot. So it was kind of a mismatch for us. But
Right.
I would be like, fine. You know what? Me and my dog are going for a walk. Me and my dog are going for a hike. I didn't want to sit on the couch anymore just because I made those changes.
So it kind of goes to the old adage of like an object in motion stays in motion, right?
Correct.
You picked yourself up, you made those decisions, you made those, at first minor lifestyle changes that snowballed, and now tell me what you did today, because when we first started this today, I was kind of blown away because I'm like, I have kind of an office type job. I'm in front of the computer a lot, that sort of deal. And the day that we weren't sure we were going to do this. And then all of a sudden I hear your story and I'm like, yeah, no, I can muster a couple minutes to put some of this podcast together. So what did you do this afternoon on your lunch?
So I start my day every morning at 4 a.m. I've changed a lot of things in my life. I've gone from I was like everybody else. Everyone watching this right now, they're probably lying in their bed watching us. So I'd be watching TikTok, I'd be watching YouTube, just random stuff that made me laugh, random stuff that distracted me from my day-to-day life. So now I start my day. My morning is I wake up. The first thing I do is I look at a 10-minute motivational movie. There's a 10-minute motivational movie. There's tons of them on YouTube. Wonderful, wonderful speakers who have made it, who have done it, who know how to be an entrepreneur and know what it takes to get there. And I'm telling you right now, take 10 minutes every morning and watch a movie. And then I write something on Facebook that I think is inspirational, and I throw that out there. Then I get up, have my coffee, hang out with my dog for a little bit before I go to work. Then I get to work. When I get to work, I'm starting to write a book about my life, not for anyone to read, just for me. I decided that I wanted to write a book, so I wrote a chapter in that. And then when I was done that, I do my job. So like you said, around lunchtime, which is what you're trying to get to. So I have a half-hour lunch, and it takes me about a half hour to run 5K. So I switch into my garb.
Well, hang on.
Yes.
On your lunch, you just bust out 5K.
Yeah. Well, so I eat while I work, and then during my lunchtime, I ran the 5K in the community there, and then
so
I came
from
back.
350. How much were you? Wait.
I was 356.
356.
Yeah.
To what are you now? What's your weight now?
205. I'm 205.
You're how tall?
I'm 6'3".
6'3", 205, running 5K on your lunch.
Yeah.
Good for you.
And I'm definitely muscular now, whereas I was flabby then. Yeah, and then so I finished off my rest of the day, and I worked 2 full-time jobs, as you know. So then I switched out and switched to my other job. And then I also did some editing of our work here.
Right.
Finally got it, that video that I was telling you about that these great people will get to see.
Yep.
Which took way too long to do. I'm telling you, the welfare video, go check it out. Took me 4 hours to cut and edit, which should take about a half hour.
Yeah. Because it's that kind of day today.
Because it's that kind of day. I had so many problems with it.
Right.
And then we started chatting about your day and all the things you went through, and we were like, I don't know if we want to do it. And then,
well, I certainly didn't do 5K this afternoon, but I did, however, run around all around town trying to buy a color printer because apparently that's not a thing in the world anymore.
Right.
Insane. So that was my evening. Ran around. My daughter, who's 12. Has an assignment due. I'm sure, like we were talking earlier, you did this with your kids. You always get the last minute, I got an assignment due in the morning, Dad, and the printer's out of ink. It's not working. There's something going on. So you go all around town trying to solve that problem. So busy day at the office, then come home to that. And it was one of those things that for myself. So again, touching base on your story, you started me with keto. I was never a person that was really in poor shape. I was probably a little heavier than I probably should have been at times, just because of probably a little bit more of a sedentary lifestyle than I probably should have. Office type job, that sort of thing. But I have done keto for probably 5 or 6 years, just because of the overall feeling that I have with it. It's easy. It's super easy. I find that I don't get those cravings. I don't have the issues along like overeating and that sort of thing. So I've kind of followed in your footsteps. I don't do the crazy 5K stuff because I guess you're training for the Olympics. Like, I don't know what you got going on here.
I do have a 5K run coming up.
Well, you can have that. Yeah. I did one of those color runs years ago where they
they're fun. Yeah, where you throw color at each other. I did a foam run. It actually is what I did. I recommend it. They're a lot of fun. Yeah.
Well, so I did the color run, and me and my girlfriend at the time, about 3K in, I got just absolutely whomped in the face by some guy. I could definitely use better words. Mm-hmm. And I'm like, I'm just going to kill this guy right here at 3 kilometers into this thing. So that was the extent of my color run experience. I have them back. I'm sure they're fantastic when you don't have some guy that smokes you in the face with a packet of color.
Probably not a good idea. No.
Well,
but
I'm not quite as 6'3" as you and a monster.
You're still like, a big monster guy.
I'm like 6'1", 200, but this guy, color run.
I'll tell you, it's nice not being the fat guy at the office now. I'm not going to point any fingers.
What are you trying to
say? I'm not going to point any fingers, but it's nice not being the fat guy.
Craig, he's terrible.
It's terrible, terrible. Poor guy.
Right.
Poor guy. So what inspires you? Like obviously, like you get tired from a day. You're a single dad. Yeah,
Right.
you work all day. You work a lot of hours, and then
Right.
you have your real estate business where you have to be hands on a lot of times to deal with the people in it.
Right.
You have your marketing that you do, like for working
The
the
market.
market.
Yeah. The
Yeah,
trading and that sort of thing.
following interest rates. I'm constantly seeing you follow the market at all times,
Right.
watching different things to make sure so you can forecast and tell me the good info.
Where to
So
make
I
some money.
make money. Yeah.
Right.
And then like just was it yesterday you went and saw 4 houses to buy?
Yeah. So Sunday. So we
Yeah.
did. So myself and my daughter. Well. So yeah. Why? What is my motivator? My family. And kind of like yours with your story around why you felt it important to make a drastic physical and health change. Mine's been my daughter in so many ways. We talked kind of briefly around our first podcast that wasn't in this type format. Our kind of first one that we were working on tonight and cutting it. But we talked a little bit about our fathers, and I recently just lost my father. My father passed away from an extreme form of cancer, really rapid form of cancer. And I was lucky enough to spend the last year of his life with him and being with him and spending as much time as I possibly could. And that experience for me was really amazing because I had that time to focus on my family and realize that I have an opportunity to build something that's generationally important for wealth, generationally important as far as culturally important, that I want to pass on something for my children and my children's children that otherwise I don't think would be there. So for me, a big thing and why I work so hard and why I continue to try to build and what we're doing here in this real estate business is my family. So I've been very fortunate over the years. I had a great tutor and teacher in my father. My parents owned businesses. My dad was a horse trader. He was a small business owner. We owned Collier World paint and decorating stores across the province. We kept busy. So I grew up learning that and seeing that. Buying horses off the back of a truck and trailer at the racetrack, sending them down to the Amish in the northern states, or sending them down to Kitchener, Ontario, to the Amish communities down there. Those sorts of things that was every day. So for me right now, I've got a beautiful 12-year-old daughter who's, the light of my world. I couldn't ask for anything better as a daughter. I have my mother who's, getting a little bit older and needs a little bit more support than she probably did years ago. And so that's my motivation, is that I get up every day and I put the shoes on on days when I don't want to, and I don't run 5K. I'll leave that for you. But to get up and keep pushing and make sure that things are working for them. And I think that, in some of our conversations that we've had, we talk about people that do and don't. And I hope that one day my daughter can look back on my situation and be like, my dad did everything he possibly could to put me in a situation to be successful. And I know that's where you are with your kids as well right now, and where they are and building and growing. What more could you ask for? I'm proud
absolutely.
of where you've come, and yeah,
I'm very proud of where you've come, and your daughter has watched you do everything and has been beside you every step of the way, whether it's gone to look at houses or purchase houses, or if you have to go to a unit because someone's been ornery, or if you have to when you have to interview people. And a big part of that process of learning what's a good person, what's a bad person for that kind of business.
Perfect.
And now she's kind of been an integral part of our podcast. Like, she's been setting up all our Instagram and all that, getting it ready for us. Right. So like every step and every facet, she's learning. And you know what, my kids, I've always had a lot of drive. Like, I was a fat man, but I always worked. I always had more than one job. I always kept going in that nature. My dad had a huge work ethic, he had several small businesses himself. He snowplowed, tarred, he had a used store. He even was a hobby farmer. So I was along for the ride for that. And I watched all that go down, and much like you, watched the business side of things. And so I was always driven. At 12 years old, he dropped me off at a farm and said, see that hay there? You're going to start putting it on the wagon for that man there. I'll see you when I see you. And so I spent part of a summer throwing hay up onto a wagon at 12 years old. And then shortly thereafter, he dropped me off at a hothouse, and I was doing flowers. And on
so
the
you're
weekend,
saying that my daughter's
flowers.
got an easier gig with the Instagram and social media marketing stuff? I could get hay
I'm not
out of
saying
her?
that. Yeah, you can get hair out of her, man.
Jeez.
Get her out there. Get her working. No, what I'm saying is that made me have this strong work ethic. And so my kids watched that, and now they're both starting their careers, and they both have picked careers that I think are going to be solid and good for them. Right. And they're starting off, and they're going to make good money and all that. But there's still those barriers. Like, there's still the barrier of buying a house right now. Buying a house is impossible without you and me, having that foundation for them. And, we will be able to not loan the money, but give them the money to the down payment to buy their first house.
Right.
I don't know how they do it because, when you have to pay rent is crazy. Thank God.
Yep. Okay. So question here, this is where you're speaking here is very truthful. However, over the last about 4 or 5 days, in all of my research and the things that I've been looking at, and we've talked a little bit, where we're still working on the tech of this whole world that we're doing in the metaverse, right? I'm seeing a definite cooling in the housing market. And I know that that's kind of crazy where we are right now. But when the 4 houses that I went and saw on the weekend, none of them sold. Wow. That's unheard of. If you were to do that over the last 3 or 4 months, all of those properties would have been sold. They would have been sold within 1 week. And what we're seeing right now, I think we're seeing, again, we got to get the tech down. We got lots of stuff. I have so much stuff I want to show and do.
So housing,
but it's a process. Right.
How does that relate to motivation?
I know, but we're going to get there.
Get that in there.
We're going to get there. So the housing aspect here where we are right now is we're seeing interest rates go up, okay? So as interest rates go up, and this is really pivotal because it's going to go back to, like I'm saying, I'm going to bring this all around, I promise.
Can't wait.
As we're seeing this interest rates go up, the Bank of Canada, the Federal Reserve Bank in the States, as we see these interest rates start to go up, and we're going to see it over the next couple of years, what we're going to see is downward pressure on the availability of cash into the market, okay? So if you're a young couple talking about your children, right? Mm-hmm. If you're a young person trying to buy a house, we've seen this as far as pricing over the last couple of years, right? It's a hockey stick.
Correct.
It hasn't gone up normal. It's gone like a hockey stick, okay?
Yeah.
The issue is now is that this goes back to the motivation. What is your motivator to go find a house? You're priced out of the market. And there's a psychological component that's going on right now where people are going, interest rates are going up. We're going to see interest rates continue up. If pricing continues to do what it's doing, you're going to see a psychological barrier that hits, and we're going to have a problem where people go, I can't afford a house. Now, if you get enough of that, you're going to see a cooling of the market, and people go, it's unobtainable, I'm not buying a house. Now, the cool part of this generation that's coming here now is they're cashing in on the house dream for mobility, okay? So instead of locking in, because we were taught, you're way older than I am.
Way older.
Way older.
But way more handsome and chiseled.
Well, you're getting there. Keep that keto going, pal. But we were taught the American dream, the North American dream was owning your own home, okay?
Absolutely.
Your children, my daughter, is going to be mobility. They can do business with Zoom. They can do business with the metaverse. They can be in Thailand. They can be in Australia. They can be in Paris. They can be wherever they want to be and run their businesses and run this. So they're giving up a little bit of the equity stakehold in residential property ownership psychologically for mobility. Now, how long? We are in this pivot. We are in a timeline of pivot. So this next generation, if you're 20 to 30 years old, to come up with a 20% or a 5% down payment on $1 million property at 3, 4, 5, 6% interest rates, because hell, we might see that in the next 3 or 4 years. Who can afford that? So they're stopping. Now, what's that going to do to the housing market? And I've got tons of data and I got tons of graphs and I got to get the tech worked and figured out.
Yeah,
but it's a process.
So right now he would say, James, cue graph, and I would put it up there. Right. And one day that's going to happen as soon as I figure out how to do that. And I'm close. This close. But you're right. So the motivation to buy a house right now, I talk to a lot of people about it. It's going down because they're all like, I'm going to bid on this $600,000 house, and it's going to sell for 800,000.
Right.
It's like, so why would I even bother? I can't reach those heights, so I am just going to stay out of the market. I'm going to rent forever. And I've actually heard people say that I'm going to rent forever. That has never been a thought in my head. In fact, I can't wait to buy my next house.
This is not unique, though. This is not a unique thing in the timeline of economic processes. We had this. If you look back in history, and if you go back to your great-great-grandparents,
Right.
they didn't trust the banks.
Mm-hmm.
Right? So if
Yep.
you were to say now to the average person, bankers, it's a dirty word. Right? So
Yep.
after 2008, after the economic fallout that we had from the housing crisis in the United States and the contagion that was all around the world, bankers became a dirty word, okay? The problem is that we died. The economy died in 2008. It just didn't lay down. So what we're doing now is we've drawn out a long stimulus process of what's called quantitative easing, where they print money, right? Our currency is just paper, where they've
Yeah.
printed and printed and printed and printed in money, and we've created massive debt. Where we are now in this is that this next generation, they've got cryptocurrencies, they've got NFTs. They have a totally different standard of what wealth and a commodity base is. We have to get on the same page as this next generation, and that's where I think, like, going back to the motivation of people, we're pivoting. The
Yeah.
things that were very important to our generation, we're going to go through a huge pivot, and that's what we do next is really super important. I think it's cool.
I think a lot of people my kids' age,
Right.
so 25, 20, in between there, lack motivation. They don't know what to do. They see, on the one hand, there's
You're
these
so
TikTokers.
old.
I know. These TikTokers and Instagram people and YouTubers making millions of dollars just talking.
Right.
And then on the other hand, they see their parents working and slaving and maybe not making as much. It seems like a grind.
Like and share. Like and share.
Like and share. Like and share.
Right.
Yeah, this is a good time for
I can't
that.
wait to be there.
Yeah.
I can't
What
wait
are
to
we,
be
what
there,
are we
right?
called? I don't remember.
Soaring
Oh, yeah,
profits.
soaring profits. So their motivation, because they have no goals, they have no direction. Now, fortunately, my kids, I talk to them daily. I used to say to them when they were when they hit high school. Actually, I started in elementary school, probably around grade 5. I said, you know what? We're in an interesting situation. When I was a young boy, I didn't have my parents didn't have a lot of time to help me with school. And so when I got to the end of my education, end of high school, my choices were in this little box.
Right.
And I had to do what I had to do. I could only pick like that. I want for you, both of you, I want you to go. I want to be a doctor. I want to be a lawyer. I want to be a veterinarian. I want to be a painter. I want to be an actress. I want you to be able to pick anything. And the way you do that is
Have
you
a big
motivate
box.
it every day.
Right.
So we would time. We had a schedule every day. They'd come home from school. Like at grade 4, I remember they'd come home from school. They'd have a snack and they'd get all their books out and they would work while I made dinner.
Right.
We did it every night. And then after the work was done, then it was play. It was very meta. Work first, then play. And we had great playtime, so there was always like a wonderful reward after you got the work done. And it got to the point by the time they got to grade 7, I didn't say anything to them.
Right.
They just sat down and worked. And it was all about achieving limitless dreams.
Right.
And it's because they had goals, they had drives. Whereas I saw other friends of theirs, they had no goals, they had no drive.
Jump on the video game.
Brilliant.
Get
Like
home. Yep.
my kids' friends were brilliant. I would sit down with them and have these very highly intellectual conversations. They were brilliant because that's what you draw when you tend to draw like people. But they had no goals, they had no drive. So then they were stuck. What are they going to do without goals? You have to have goals to drive.
Right.
You don't have to have a giant goal. Like every day now, I actually on my desk at work, I have a list of the 5 things that I want to accomplish every day. I have another business that I have to work on. I have this business that I'm working on. So I have to accomplish those two things. I also have to watch a motivational thing, like I told you. I have to write in my book, and I have to do my run. Those 5 things, that's my list. I have to achieve those every day, and if I don't, I fail. And that drives me because I'm
Right.
looking at it. It's looking at me while I'm working at my desk. I'm looking at that going, oh, I haven't read a chapter yet. You know, I got to get that chapter in. And so when I read a chapter, it's about other people who have had success stories, which drives me more. And I think as long as you have goals, as long as you write them down, you know what they are. They're in your face. You can't ignore them. You have to get up off the floor and do them. You will keep on achieving. That's what motivates me anyway.
100%. Well, pal, I don't think we could come up with a better way to end that. That sounds like a motivational speech. Gandhi is taking notes. He's trying to figure out how he can work that into his...
That's a big, I don't know what he wears. Thing.
Sure.
I don't want to get, whatever. I just
right,
ruined everything. Okay, so Soaring Profits. Very soon we will have this guru himself here that will make most economic professors look bad.
Well, okay, so again, the concept of what I'm trying to build here is something that we can have great conversations. We kind of throw this in on what our goals are all the time.
Yeah.
But, you know, for yourself is that you've shared a real life story about what you went through with the keto, talking about your children, the life experience that you share there. And something that I'm really passionate about is I love the economic climate that we're in right now. I love seeing and looking at where the markets are and seeing where the geopolitical stuff comes from. So some people find that a little boring. Cool. Some people like this stuff that we were talking about. Cool. If we can marry the two of those, was that you like saying
Yeah,
me?
that was me.
Right,
Yeah,
right. I'll just keep telling you where to put your
I
money.
kind of glaze over when you start talking about it.
Right.
But you make
just
me
in
money.
general, or like, yeah, exactly.
You make me money, so it's
Right.
good. Yeah.
But yeah, so that's as soon as we get the tech, I want to go over and be able to teach people some stuff. So I think that'd be fantastic.
Oh, I think it's going to be amazing. This metaverse that we're in right now has all those abilities. The problem is us. We
we're
are
slowly
catching up.
Well, old, eh?
Yeah.
Old.
Right. Well, no, it's more that my tech is old.
Where are we today, by the way?
Resources. I don't know where we are, but this is our, I'd like to say it's our New York office.
The New York
looks
office,
nothing like New York, but one day you and I will have a New York office. And
Like this. Yep.
yeah, like, we'll have a whole division that cuts and edits these videos so we don't have to. That's what I'm looking forward to.
My people get in touch with your people.
Yeah, exactly.
Right.
Anyway,
Thanks,
another wonderful conversation. You're a hell of a guy.
Hey, folks, thanks again for joining us at Soaring Profits. Patrick and James, please like, subscribe, and share.
And follow us on YouTube, TikTok, Instagram, and of course, Facebook. And let's start a dinner table discussion right on this page right here. Let's start talking about the topics that we're talking about today.
Thanks again, folks. Appreciate it.